Five episodes so far.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, we're pretty much killing it. So today in our episode, we're going to chat about garages, everything from our own that we are currently on the tail end of outfitting to, a few of the garages that inspired us throughout our journey, in the import car scene. So yeah, we've been building our own shop / garage. It's been like a solid, what would you say, since concrete was poured until right now, like
Probably like 8 months.
8-9 months.
Something
It's
like that.
felt like 72 months, but
Felt way too long.
yeah. So, as a car guy, as probably most people listening can relate to, like, what's your dream? Well, beyond, like, of course, your favorite cars, it's your shop, right? It's your spot where your cars live.
Place to put the car.
Yes, and also a place to work on, maintain, clean. Whatever you do with your car, every guy has a dream space to do that with. Wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, 100%. There's always something to do on these cars, and having the right tools, the right space, the right equipment makes it that much easier, makes it that much nicer.
Right, you're right, and it makes it more enjoyable because when you really, really put your heart into the design and the the outfit of the building, like, it's just so much more rewarding when you complete something within that space, right? When you swap out that intercooler in your own space with your own tools that's decorated the way you love it, it's just a different feeling.
Right. Because anyone can just build a square box, throw up 2 or 3 LEDs, and throw in a lift and call it a day.
Oh, for
right,
sure.
But yeah, going that extra mile and actually thinking out every aspect of it, whether it be the flow of the shop, where things are put, decorations, whether it be, signs or the Nabori flags or whatever it might be, taking it that extra mile, just makes it that much better and that much enjoyable to be in the space.
Yeah, exactly. And it's got your vibe, your flair, which is what you're the most comfortable in.
Right.
So I don't know how many guys out there have ever had their hand in a ground up construction of a shop. I know this was my first time building an actual purpose built, car shop. So, and of course the basic like timeline and list of things to do is the same for any shell of like a garage warehouse, right? But there's always issues, right? If you've built even a house, there's always issues.
There's always something.
Yes. So, the slab was poured for our garage in like this past July. And we were supposed to have a shop by September, October at the latest, the very latest. And we just kept running into so many issues just with the contractor and timing and, deaths in people's family and lack of this or that.
Yeah, it was definitely always something. And, it was a couple more weeks, we'll get started on it. Couple more weeks, we'll get on it. It was always that, and
literally,
a couple weeks adds up 5 times, 6 times over.
Yeah, exactly. And now all of a sudden, like I said, we got our slab, but we're not even having the first piece of metal put down for the building until, pretty late December, and then.
I think it snowed on the first day they started.
Yeah, it did.
Building.
Yes, right. And so, yeah, that's tough because then they're taking their Christmas, New Year break for 14 or 21 days. And so it's just a huge delay. And, we had already ordered, the flooring epoxy. We had already ordered, some stuff to outfit within the garage. And so now we have to store this stuff. We have to figure out how to keep it dry, how to, keep it from kind of just getting ruined. Some of this
Right.
stuff has electronics in it and whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, it was a semi-stressful project, right? I mean,
Yeah, because I mean, just because of the delays, I mean, everything that was on us was done right then and there.
oh, for
You
sure.
know, if they had an excuse of something that we did or we didn't do that we needed to finish before they moved on, like it was done. It was accomplished. Like we weren't having them wait on us.
That's for sure.
You
Yeah.
know?
And that's, generally how it is, right? You're never necessarily waiting on the homeowner unless they got some extravagant thing that's, ordered from India or whatever, right? But
Right.
otherwise, like, a lot of this shit's pretty basic. So, finally, I would say it was like January 15th or 16th. The spray foam was done, and then they came in and sheathed all the metal on the inside, and finally it was turned over to us.
Right.
Yeah, and so we did have some water issues, some water coming into the building at first, which was a little, frustrating,
Oh, yeah.
because we keep trying to squeegee it out, vacuum it out, and it
Yeah.
just keeps coming back.
I squeegeed that shop twice, maybe 3 times completely.
Yeah,
before
40
we even
by
moved
60. Yeah, so that's a decent amount of space just to keep squeegeeing. And so the water keeps coming back, and we think that it's coming in from the sides. Like maybe the sides weren't sealed well enough, and, there's snow all around, but none of it's actually touching the building. So it's
Right.
a little confusing. Finally, we realize that there's a pipe coming up from the ground that holds the water pipe. It's like a protector
Right.
type thing. And this water had been slowly seeping up that and out of this protector pipe and onto our floor, but at a rate that you couldn't really tell unless you really sat there and like paid attention.
And we had to wait for the thaw to happen too, because I think
Yeah.
at one point it had kind of frozen and stopped leaking.
Yep.
And then as soon as we had a semi-warm day,
It just starts
it started flooding in
Yeah.
again. And I remember walking in like a couple days after squeegeeing the whole thing and seeing it flooded again. I'm like, dude, no, are you serious?
So that was like a headache because that's delaying the floor being dried out and us being able to do the epoxy. So anyways, we plug that little pipe. It's all good. Everything's dry. On to the next problem. The guys working threw salt down on the concrete while before they got the roof on the building.
Because it was freezing out.
Because it was freezing because they were so late. And now the salt has eroded the concrete and created a bunch of divots and like really rough places and like just taken the sheathing, not the sheathing, but the top surface off the concrete.
Yeah. Anyone that's done that before knows exactly what we're talking
Yes,
about.
it
Yeah, dude,
sucks.
it's so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the science is or what the difference is behind some concrete you can throw it on and some you can't, but yeah, for ours it was definitely detrimental.
Yeah,
it
so
was not fun.
Now we're left with like this, like all these little crevices and just kind of like you took a hammer and just smashed a bunch of spots out of the concrete kind of. And, we're the type of guys that like to try to handle stuff ourselves because as soon as we hire somebody to come in and do this, we're waiting and we're potentially waiting quite a while. Right. And we kind of have a timeline where we're headed to Japan at the end of April. We're trying to get our cars in this garage and get some of that stuff done so that we can be driving them when we return for the most part. So yeah, fuck it. We're just going to do it. We're just going to fix this concrete because we're already doing the epoxy ourselves, which we have prior experience with. So we're just going to fix this concrete. So we get some concrete resurfacer and we follow the directions. And I mean, it's not great. It doesn't, it's not nearly as bad as it was.
Definitely way better than it was.
But it's absolutely not great.
Right.
Yeah. So
we might be throwing some rugs over those spots.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, whatever, right? Like we filled in what we could. We learned. We now understand the resurfacing thing. So anyways, with this garage, we kind of have gone through a few things, but, after that resurfacing, everything has kind of gone well in the sense of, again, we've epoxied floors before, so we took this on ourselves and We did a base coat and we had to tape a few things off. Aaron had the good idea of making the work surface black instead of gray so that stains wouldn't show, and it also just kind of breaks everything up.
Yeah.
So we epoxied everything. We have 2 lifts that we installed ourselves and actually hold cars. So that's cool. Yeah.
Haven't fallen over yet.
Yeah. Well,
Knock
we
on
haven't
wood.
been in this morning, so we don't know. But, and so we're really taking in this experience of kind of creating our space, right?
Right.
That's like the big thing, because who knows if we'll ever upgrade our space. So we're doing our best we can now.
Do it right the first time, all day.
Yeah, and so, our first shop with a full air system with a compressor outside, so you don't have to listen to that thing hum. What are some other kind of unique things we did in there?
So obviously the lifts, having 2 lifts, that's like so sick. One of my favorite things, obviously, because working on the ground, it's not the funnest thing.
Everybody's been there.
Everyone's been there. I've been there a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not having to do that as much definitely is a plus. Having the tire machine and tire balancer, all that, that's so cool. Like, from being, from coming from drifting back in the day and stuff, having your own tire machine, that's like next level.
Right.
Because people charge crazy amounts just to do swap overs on tires and whatnot. And being able to do that yourself and kind of be self-sufficient completely, like within a shop, that's awesome. Like the only thing we're really lacking as far as like big equipment is like an alignment rack or something like that.
Right.
For the most part, we can do everything with what we have, and that's like perfect. And also the Sonic boxes.
Yeah.
Those are sick.
Yeah, so that's
nice.
one of those things, right? Like where, again, we don't know if we'll ever get a chance to build out another shop. So it's like, okay, well, what do we need? Well, yeah, tired of paying $20 to $25 a wheel to have tires swapped over.
Right.
We don't got to throw everything in the truck, drive it to wherever, wait or come back. Like it's just a
risk
lot.
Getting your stuff scratched.
Right, that's a big thing. Like when we're talking about super old wheels or even super rare wheels or whatever it may be, every time you drop those wheels and tires off somewhere, you're taking a huge risk, because that person, that tech, that entry level tech replacing tires, there's no difference between those 97 Ford Explorer rims and your wheels. And that's like kind of the problem, right? Is you're always like just like on edge, because you're like I always have to be like, okay, these are super nice. We need to be very careful.
Yeah.
No scratches. Like, and I mean, I've gotten like pretty lucky, but still now we can kind of alleviate that stress and have control over everything, which is important. And also, even just your daily drivers, like if your wheel becomes unbalanced, you just throw it on the lift, take your wheel, throw it on the balancer, and boom, like, you're back at it. So I feel like some of these specialty things that like, you've always wanted but haven't been able to obtain now will just save so much time.
Yeah, time and money. Like, yeah, it's pretty sweet. Kind of, like I said, being self-sufficient and like being able to take pride in the saying whatever. I mean, it's just mounting tires and stuff, but it's just like another thing that you can do that you don't have to take your car somewhere or rely on someone else, because that's like when you have issues.
Yeah, we're vertically integrating over here. What up?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what it's about.
Like you said, the Sonic setups, that's sweet. One thing, like when I was thinking about the garage, was that, like, of course, having a toolbox is cool. We'll still have a toolbox, but like having that integrated setup that like is built in is just so clean, and ours happen to match like our whole color scheme of the garage, and so yeah, that was definitely a must-have for me when I was like, what are we gonna do in here?
Right, and they just bring the space together. I feel like,
for sure,
it makes a big difference if everything kind of matches in the shop and stuff like that. It just just the aesthetic of it.
Right. That's really what I would say we're going for is good aesthetics. You know, and of course we got some fun stuff in there with the TV and the Xbox and a little sim setup for planes and cars, you know, just trying to have a little fun there too. Eventually I think we'll record this in the garage and, you know, start posting it on YouTube as well. So it gives us also kind of a little studio space.
Right.
Yeah, and so I mean, otherwise, you know, we of course it's fully heated and cooled by mini splits. We got a dehumidifier mounted to the ceiling to make sure that, you know, we're not getting too much moisture in the cars.
Right.
Air filters just to eliminate some of the dust that collects, you know, just little stuff to just try to literally make it as best as we possibly can.
Right. Just taking it to that next level and maybe doing things like you said with the dehumidifier, you know, to keep the conditions right. Because if you've ever kept a car long period in a moist environment, you know, and you open that door
Not
for the
good.
first time and you're
Stank.
yeah, it's got that little bit of
Ugh.
musty look
It's the
to it. And the
worst.
dash has a few little spores growing on
Yeah.
it. It's like, oh, that's not good.
That's those barn finds.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, tried to avoid any of that. And, you know, and also like, like you said, with the fans, the air filtration, keeping the dust off the cars or anything else that's in the air, it's going to get sucked up into the fan and into the filter. So that's pretty cool too. Like, and that's things I feel like sometimes are overlooked in some of these garages.
Right. Yeah,
You know?
they're not necessarily thinking about that, but then they're always cleaning the dust off the cars or off the walls. And as we know, when you actually work in a space, like stuff is created, but if you can kind of catch it and filter it, that's just less work on you in the end, you know.
Right.
And so our garage has a name. It's called Blunt Garage. You can find it on Instagram at Blunt Garage. And basically, we took some of our inspiration and experience in the cultivation world, and we put some of it into our garage to kind of tie in both sides of our lives. And so we took some cues from, as I said, our cultivation side, and so that's kind of where also the idea for the dehumidifier came in.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, you know, we like to light things up, you know.
Light it up.
Light it up, man. Like whenever I'm working, I love plenty of light. Like you can't have enough light in a space.
Not when you're working on a car.
No, right. So, yeah, I mean, we threw up some 650 watt LED grow lights to brighten up the space as well. You know, to supplement the shop lights we already have. So, you know, if we're doing something like detailing the car or whatever it might be, where you need that,
You can blow it right out.
Yeah, you can really crank it up and, you know, see everything.
Right, and
So
so
that's
these
pretty
are
cool.
the same lights that we use at our cultivation facilities.
Right.
And same with for our car wash setup, we're using a dosatron to dose the soap into the water for when it's time to get
Right.
sudsy. And so that's what we use to distribute our nutrients.
Right. And
Yeah.
yeah, Dosatron, they actually have like a car wash division. So like in some of these car washes and stuff behind the scenes, they use these Dosatrons to pretty much inject the soap into the spray wand that you're using in the wash bay. So we're gonna kind of do the same thing. You know, we have a Dosatron set up for our pressure washer, so we can you know, direct inject the soap and stuff for the cars whenever we're cleaning them. So sounds a little goofy, but you know, it's just little things like that that we've taken from like another element of our lives and kind of integrated it, and yeah, it's gonna work well. I think it's really cool.
Will be great. And so yeah, I mean, you know, at the most simplest form, that's Blunt Garage for you. And so we're going to continue to develop that, and you guys will see and hear more about that as we go, but we're just kind of trying to introduce it. And you know, when people see the pictures inside the garage, they can kind of get a feel for where we're going with it.
Right.
And so for the second part of this episode, we kind of just wanted to go through a few of the tuning shop / garages that kind of inspire us and maybe have for a long time. And then you'll kind of understand why we are choosing to do some of the things that we're doing within the Blunt Garage. I'll let you start off with your first garage that kind of was always iconic for you.
So my first one is well, everyone knows this brand, HKS.
HKS.
Right. Super iconic with the Japanese cars.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they've been around since 1973. Like, they've worked on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, to say the least.
And they are one of, like, the high-end, elite, like, Japanese brands, I guess you could say. You know what I mean? With their...
I've had something HKS on pretty much all my cars except for Hondas, maybe.
Right. So, I mean, that's probably the same for a lot of people, whether it be real or fake.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, everybody knows HKS and usually wants their stuff. You know, they're just that kind of top tier of tuning shops.
Oh, yeah.
In Japan. So, you know, they have their own like metal foundry and stuff like that, so they can cast their own parts, you know, whether it be manifolds or whatever it might be. You know, they really do a lot. And, you know, their iconic spot is right there on the base of Mount Fuji. So
oh, yeah, that picture's sick.
Yeah. There's like that specific spot that they always take a pic of their cars with the mountain in the background.
Yeah.
If you know, you know.
HK, it's so sick.
If you know, you know, and that's, yeah, I mean, they're classic. The oil splash livery from the 90s, like.
And the colors that they used, like, really, like, set them apart.
Right. And they're, you know, still using those color schemes today. Like, you know, the GR86, like, that they were developing, you know, it has the same, like, livery as the R32 GTR, you know, from the early 90s. It's cool. You know, and I like that they've kept that pattern alive, you know, and, you know, just kept it going.
Yeah, not let it fade and become like a memory. Like, they're still using it, like, staying true to it.
Right. And, yeah, I mean, that was definitely one of the brands that I saw, you know, playing Gran Turismo back in the day, was HKS. You know, you would see the banners or, you know, the special cars that they had. You would see it, and those were the sickest ones. Like,
that must have been cool back then, being HKS and having a video game company ask you, or however that ended up working.
Right. So cool.
Yeah, HKS, definitely, I'd agree that one's iconic. So for mine, another, especially with the Honda boys, a super iconic spot is the Type 1 Spoon Garage.
Oh, yeah.
That one especially... in Japan, I think, is one of the more visited garages. Just their whole setup is super friendly for visitors. They actually allow visitors to give themselves self-guided tours.
So you're saying we're going there?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Through floor 1 and 2. And, you know, I've heard that they're super friendly and love to chat and whatnot.
Right.
But... to me, what stands out about Type 1 is not only just all the stuff that they have on display for you to check out. I mean, that's like killer. But their setup for the storage and lifting of the cars is like just so amazing. They have like a mezzanine, and they store all of the extra cars up on the mezzanine, and they have this cool platform lift that brings the cars up there, and then they put them into position. But when you walk into Type 1 and look up, it's, you know,
all these cars floating.
Yes, like, but the most amazing S2000s, NSX, you know, Civics, like everything like that, just like all on display. And I think that that's like really cool way to like show your stuff off and not just hide it in some warehouse.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, everybody who knows, you know, Spoon is the Honda tuner, and I think that they really kind of like stepped it up as far as their experience when it comes to their actual shop.
Oh yeah, they're definitely next level. Like, and the classic blue and yellow, like,
Oh yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, they're like kind of like HKS with theirs. They also stuck to livery and like patterns that
Right.
all kind of mesh, and like when you see that yellow and blue car on the
Right.
track, you know whose car it is, you know.
Right, right. Anytime I see blue and yellow anywhere, I think a spoon. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, down to obviously where there have been a lot of spoon inspired cars. I picked one up. We had dropped my GTR off in Virginia, and I happened to see this spoon inspired CRZ on Marketplace, and I was like, can't go back with an empty trailer, and we picked it up, and I mean, it was a CRZ.
Yeah, it was a CRZ. It had a
but still-
supercharger.
Yeah, it did. It had a supercharger, and it had wine right up, and
Yeah.
it looked like a
Guy
spoon
said it
race
sounded
car.
like a Hellcat, but I don't know
Hellcat,
where he
yeah.
was going with that.
I don't know what
but-
type of Hellcat he's driving, but
Maybe a Hell Kitty.
but right, like people have embraced this so much that they are literally spending thousands and thousands just to make their car look like a spoon
Yeah, like
car.
tributes.
Yeah,
Right.
it's pretty amazing. So yeah, I would say the Type 1 Spoon Sports spot is super iconic. Just Japan tuners.
Right.
Who do you
All
got?
day. So another one on my list is Signal Auto.
Oh yeah. Oh
Which-
man, if you watched anything drift wise, you saw those boys.
Right, right. Like back in the day, pretty much one of my first times picking up a Super Street magazine, it actually featured the Signal Auto Drift Twins.
I think I can picture that cover in my head.
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, me too. It's burned in there. You know, they had an S13 hatchback with the hatch taken off that was like pretty much like a truck, and it had an S15 front. They had two of them, and they were just so cool and unique, and had the classic splash stripe down the side, and like I don't know why that just stuck with me. I thought it was so cool, and yeah, I mean they're obviously huge into drifting, and you know especially in American drifting, they brought a few cars over and sponsored a few cars, and a lot of them had the Mazziora paint job. You know, there was the flip-flop paint.
Which is awesome.
Right, right. That was like their thing, you know. But, I mean, even in the late 90s, they were big into drag racing. And they actually shipped over a Honda Civic that was dominating its class at the time.
I bet.
Which was kind of unheard of. But, you know, they had their hand kind of in everything as far as Japanese sports cars. But they also did a lot of the show car type things. Like they made things really nice looking. They had
visually pleasing.
You know, custom work to all of them. Like I said, the drift cars had, you know, the back chopped off, and they were technically like made into a truck. Like if you're into S13s and 240s and stuff, you know what I'm talking about. But they were always doing those unique things that not everyone was doing or necessarily putting the time into. They were, and that like set them apart, you know, with the style. You know,
right.
I just thought that was the thing.
They put in the effort,
so cool.
yeah,
and they took the pride in it. You know,
even if it was gonna get smashed.
Right, right. You know, and that was the thing. They didn't care. You know, they took so much pride in it that they wanted it to be that nice to smash.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which I mean does make sense, right? I mean they have the pride, so like what the results at the end are don't matter. It's how you present yourself at the beginning.
Right, right. But yeah, definitely those cars that they built, you know, those burnt orange Silvias, those will always stick in my mind. And that's why they're one of my favorite tuning shops, you know, that I try to pull some inspiration from wherever I can.
So what you're saying is we're going there.
Well, I wish we could. Maybe
accessible.
no, they're closed down. They closed down a few years back. You know,
they did?
Yeah. We might be able to see where the old shop was, but
So Signal Auto is no more.
it's no more, unfortunately.
Wow, that's crazy because they were so big. Like,
Right.
dang. So, all right. So for the last garage that we're gonna kind of speak on is if you're a Nissan guy, if you are into GTRs and stuff like that, then you've probably heard of Top Secret. I mean, Top Secret, and of course the creator Smokey Nagata.
Oh yeah, all those top speed runs, dude.
Yeah, he's like infamous for kind of being a vigilante in a sense, just kind of doing it his way, like not following anybody, not taking cues from anybody, and just kind of like doing his thing. Yeah,
those big burnouts he would do before the top speed runs.
Right, like, he's just like very so like sick. He'd
pretty much start it from a burnout.
Right, and like you know, and they've done a lot of different you know, types of vehicles. It's not just Nissans. You know, they've had some cool Supras,
like the V12 Supra with the I forget what front end they put on that, but
oh yeah, that one was wacky. Yeah, with the front end swap, and I know that they've done a lot of work with other cars, but it's mainly like just their style and like what they stand for. You know, like kind of like a no BS. No, fancy frills or anything. Like it's raw, and like they put it out there, and it doesn't matter if you like it or not. Like they're like those type, and I think that that's inspiring to a lot of us that don't necessarily want to care what other people think. We want to do what we love and put something out that we love, and if nobody else likes it, who cares? Because we're the ones enjoying it. And I think that's what, like, Smokey Nagata really kind of, like, symbolizes is, like, not giving a crap.
Right. For sure, yeah, all day.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be doing the 300 kmh runs.
Right, and, like...
if he did.
Yeah, and, like, even, he's getting older and, like, is obviously not, like, so wild, so to speak, anymore, but, like, his car styling is still coming out amazing. Like, the R35s that he does, like, just look so much better than an R35 looks. Like, he just, like, really puts in that attention to detail to have them look not crazy, not, like... overblown, but just like very like
top secret.
Yeah, top secret. You can't even
explain it.
You can't. Yeah, and so therefore, Top Secret and Smoking Nagata have always kind of been on my list, so to speak. Definitely somewhere that we plan to stop while we're in Japan. I know they're still open.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we're hoping that we can and the reason for bringing up some of these shops is just to touch on them prior to us going, because we do have the plans to do live podcasts from a few of these places, and hopefully we'll be able to hit Top Secret or Type 1 or whatever it may be, and actually give you like a live podcast and explain to you what it's like there and the vibe and all of that actually while we're there. So yeah, and we just, again, wanted to kind of give you a little preview of what we're doing here at home in our shop and what you can expect, because it will be something that comes up more and more frequently. And, again, hopefully we can kind of record this from there and make it our studio. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to follow the garage at Blunt Garage on Instagram. Follow us at RHDGUYS on Instagram. And until next time, which actually our next episode I think is going to be preview to Japan, like the start of our, preparation to leave for Japan. So we'll see you then.
Yep. See ya.
Peace.